even elementary, I like grade 8, I'd say, I wanted to be a lawyer. First, it was a defense lawyer. Then I switched to a prosecutor, and I want to explain my reasoning, because when I tell people I want to be a prosecutor, everyone's like trying to lock up all the time. But for me, it's more so I feel like I can make the most systemic change, because especially when we see a lot of our Black, Indigenous young people being funneled into the system, and so as a prosecutor, you can serve as that bridge and that wall. So like not every young person deserves no jail time. Sometimes they just need mental health support or community service, and so as a prosecutor, I'll be able to make those recommendations, and judges most likely will listen to me. So that's kind of the reason why I ended up switching to a prosecutor.
I like that. I never really taken that perspective, but I like it.
Hey, the prosecutor is the one who makes the decision.
Changing the system within.
Exactly.
And that's what we need to. Now, like, I know this is not an easy job, being the executive director. It may look good, you got your interviews, the CP24, CBC, Toronto Star, but what is it like? What is a day in the life of executive director?
So I'd say the day in the life is just primarily supporting my other team members. So at the cabinet, we have about 11 working groups. So we have education, budget, community safety, transit, housing, and so everyone's working on different initiatives geared towards addressing specific issues in their portfolio. And so besides from helping my colleagues on a day-to-day basis, just obviously I'm the voice of the organization. So like mainly responding to requests from other people who want to partner with us, constant meetings, like. My mom knows that like every day I'm saying I have a meeting, but it's like it's too much sometimes. But constant meetings and yeah. So I think with me, and as an ED, you have the discretion to still do public advocacy or just stick internally and just do a lot of the internal admin work. But I've really chosen to maintain and continue my advocacy that I started when I was education lead.
Okay, nice. And I guess the one thing that I like that you said over there is the fact that like meetings and, trying to partner and make sure that you're on point with all these different organizations. I'm pretty sure a lot of people reach out to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's too much. I'm trying to delegate, but I think it's a good thing, because I know when I became ED, one of my first goal, and it continues to be my goal, is to make sure every young person in the city knows about the TYC, because we've been here for about 25 years, but there are still young people who don't know that we exist. And so for me, that's a problem. And so making sure that more young people across the city know that we exist, and that they have someone who's really advocating for them at both the city and provincial level is important.
Now, when we talk about understanding self, purpose, and passion, what would you say your passion comes from trying to make sure that, because the amount of youth that are in the city that you represent is a lot, and then you have the youth that don't even know about this. Yeah. So that just shows that clearly you're in the right spot, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Yeah. And even making time to be able to speak here, and you're on interviews every day. We appreciate you coming on. You're on the biggest TV, and all the Toronto stations. You've been on every literary platform discussing change and mental health. But where does your passion come from, and what keeps you passionate?
I'd say my drive, and it goes back to when I was education lead and when I was taking on education initiatives, was just like my niece and nephew, and just like young people in general. Because for me, many of our young people have not been able to reach their full individual potential, and that's due to many inequities and just many problems with our systems. And so for me, like I have that goal that I want to make sure all of our young people are able to achieve and reach the full individual potential, no matter what that is. And so I think that's where my drive is, just like young people, and just some of our prospects lately are just so slim and just so dim. And so if I can play a role in making their future or more hopeful and more, I guess, sunny, for me that's important. So I'd say like my niece and nephew, and just young people in general, and making sure that they're able to succeed in life.
Family oriented, and I think it's so important for us. Max, we always talk about of finding your why, knowing what your why is, what keeps you going, and whatever your space is, and truly living to your full capability in any organization or job or whatever you're attached to. And with the city of Toronto, a lot's been going on. Like we had a crazy busy weekend. A lot of things have been going on.
Yeah.
But even Max, coming from the Jane and Finch community, thinking back to your younger days, what would you say are like the things people don't see that are in organizations when they come to community spaces that they're not really from, looking to make change? Because like one thing I think it's about understanding.
Exactly.
It's hard to get into a space if you don't understand. Like you're trying to get people to be involved in certain activities or certain things you're trying to do, but if they don't understand you or you don't understand them, how is that going to work?
I think, well, growing up, from my personal experience, I think it was about meeting at the common ground, being relatable to the one individual. Because more often than not, when these organizations go to these neighborhoods, it's kind of they have something implemented where they assume one size fit all each youth, but that's often never the case. And also the lack of connections or information getting passed down for the youth in the community to know the resources available to them. I think that's the bridge more so because you'd be surprised what the city has to offer for us. Like literally, like people going to university, so much bursaries gets passed on, but they're not aware of, right? And so it's kind of like connecting people, letting people know that there's these resources for you, and then making that bridge that although we're different, I'm here to show you a different way. So I think that's when we talk about organizations coming into community with the youth. That's something that, like that fine gray area, right? Because it's always kind of like, you may not have the answers coming to talk to me, right? And that's the thing that I did figure out on my own. I don't need nobody, and that's one of the things that we have to break as a community leaders.
And I brought this out, and I want to hear your response to his answers also.
And I like the question. I like your response because I know I'm looking at one of our back to school give back I was telling you that we did last year. So obviously now Toronto Youth Gala, our jurisdictions obviously across Toronto, but still, if I'm going to a community, I'm not just gonna parachute into it and just move as if I know what they need. And so when we did our back to school give back, we really we were really intentional to partner with organizations, local organizations in the community. So we were at Lawrence Heights, we have Malvern, Warburn, Jenna Finch, Pelham, so on and so forth. And so we connected with organizations in each of those communities to help us give back, and even to ask, I asked them what's your need? Because we're giving you backpacks filled with school supplies, but maybe there's a food insecurity need. Maybe there's a need for, gift cards to McCarthy's to buy a uniform. And so I was really intentional to ask folks, what's the need before we just parachute into the community. So I think really realizing that need. I mean, although I have connections with Pelham and all these other communities, I don't live there as much as other people live there and would know. So I think being intentional is key.
And I love that because we would love to partner and September coming back. I think it would be a great initiative. Max from Jane and Finch. I have my community ties in Rexdale as well too. So I think the Toronto Youth Cabinet and Motivation Monday, we can collaborate and I use our resources together. And I'd love to see Max do that too for his community too, because he already does so much for it. So to tie and get the city on board would be an amazing thing. And I talked to Cindy the other day. She speaks highly of you. She's a great connected to the city of Toronto. So you're doing great work.
Thank you.
Now, I gotta ask, because we also talk about finances. Toronto Youth Cabinet. I know you gotta give your time, right? It's like you're giving back to the community. Why is giving back to the community so important? Because sometimes people don't understand that you could take one pathway and it can lead to another. It's not always about the money.
Exactly. I'd say for me, it's like I feel like we all have that moral and it's like a social responsibility to just give back to our community. And so for me, even from when I started in high school, I never did things for money. It was just, money obviously is important, paying your bills and whatever is important, but I was always able to pay my bills and all that stuff. So for me, I was just focused on, how can I make an impact, in the lives of someone, and how can I just give back to my community. And so I think for me, I've always had that moral responsibility, and I've always believed in that moral responsibility. And I think all folks should just give back, even if it's a couple of hours in your day. Because even when I finished getting my 40 volunteer hours in school, I still continued volunteering, and to this day, I think even till the day I die, I'm going to continue to volunteer because I really feel like we all have a part to play.
I forgot about those days where you have to make sure you get your 40 hours in. You're scraping to make sure you get into that. Now, as the ED, what do you think some of the, what are the pros and cons with working with so many different communities and being in charge with over 6,000 youth?
I think for me, it's recognizing that each community has its own needs, and it goes back to the previous question. Each community has its own needs, and the dynamics and demographics are different because depending on what community in, many of them may be well off, and compared to others. And I think for me and even the cabinet historically, we've really put a focus on ensuring equity deserving young people have that voice, because many other young people, because even within young people, it's not monolithic. There's like so much differences between the youth demographic in general, and so for us, we're really giving that voice to the demographic and the young people that oftentimes aren't heard and that oftentimes are neglected. And I still think that's been my focus, and even historically, that's been 2IC's focus. So like the pros and cons, I mean, like of the role of the ED or just the communities?
Both.
I don't know if I can speak on the communities piece. I think like the communities is just seeing the difference in investments and difference in young people's experiences. Going back to why I said it, because you go to Rosedale and you go to Rexdale, you can see the disparities that exist between the young people's experiences. So I'd say like that would be the difference between communities and just the pros and cons of the role. I mean, it's very time demanding, but I think like delegating, I have a good team of people around me. Shout out to my friend Zaina, she's been amazing. So I think delegating is something I've learned to do more and more in this role.
And as you talk about your team, we speak on how teamwork is very key in order to achieve something that is bigger beyond your dream or your imagination.
Yeah.
What does teamwork mean to you? Why is it so important?
This is what it's saying. If you want to go far, go together. Or if you want to go, what's the saying?
The saying is, if you wanna go somewhere fast, go alone. If you wanna go far, go with others.
Exactly.
It's
So I'd say,
proverb. Yeah.
thank you. So I'd say like for me, I've
Not to the true Africans.
I had to know that. If we use that proverb a couple of times on the show, so yes, it's an old African proverb. Yeah.
And I think I'm very intentional to give kudos to my colleagues on all the things I do. Like, because obviously most times I'm the front facing of the organization, all the work I do, but I always like make sure to reinforce and reiterate that it's a team of people behind me. Even when I was education lead, I had a team of 40 people strong who were supporting me on my initiatives, and even to this day as ED, I have a team of people, whether it's 1, 2, or 3 people who are supporting me. So I think teamwork is so important, and I don't believe in that I did it all by myself. I mean, even if you did 99% of things by yourself, 1% of things you didn't do by yourself, you're always gonna have to tap into people and rely on people. So yeah.
Now, when it came to you applying to get this position, was there any challenges you faced that and I speak on these things because it's important for a lot of the youth to see our own people who are in these positions and then get to hear from them. So I'm also gonna give room for everybody to ask questions too, not only just soaking what we're talking about, and then we'll have a dialect. I asked you for the 3 things that are important to you too, so we'll speak on that as well too. But yeah.
Were there any barriers? I'd say, besides from the personal barriers I set out for myself, I think this is a problem with, well, not a problem, but just something that we see with a lot with Black youth and just BIPOC youth or whatnot, is that so oftentimes we feel like we're unqualified or we're not meant for A, B, and C roles. And so that, I think that for me was my biggest barrier, is that I had downplayed myself and my abilities and didn't think I was quote unquote worthy of whatever role I wanted to seek. But thankfully, due to the motivation of others, I put my name out there. And I'm here. So I think one advice and one thing that I constantly tell myself is, just put yourself out there, just apply, just just put yourself out there, because you never know what may come out of it at the end of it. But I'd say in respects like systemic barriers or just barriers within the city or anything of that sort, I didn't really face much. I think though one problem is that the city does not necessarily compensate young people a lot for their work, and so that's something that I know we're grappling with right now, is to ensure that whenever you want to engage young people as subject matter experts on things, we compensate them for their time, because that right there is a certain expertise. If we're doing consultations or talking to young people, that's the expertise that's the intellectual property that we're taking from them. So let's make sure we're intentional to pay them and compensate them for their time.
I just want to add, I don't want to get into too much. So you talk about the system and the individual. I want to hear your take on it. Who's the only side? Is it for the system to save one individual, or for the individual to save himself through the system? I just want to hear your take on it.
So repeat the last part. Is
it for the system to save an individual, or for the individual to save himself from the system?
Personally, I say system. Like, all the work I've done has been pushing the system to do better and change, because I feel like we're never gonna get that, widespread change or widespread impact if it's individualized one by one. But and for me, it's all my mindset is always like, what is affecting my peers affecting me, even though it might not be affecting me. So like for me, I've always been focused on the system needing to change so that more people in general can benefit from it.
And you're a big advocacy for mental health. A lot of the interviews, you are a voice, and you've had say onto what you feel like we need to focus on, or the city.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because I'm not gonna. Sometimes I watch it and I'm like, you work for the city, but you're going against them. Like, you let it be known, and that's the freedom of speech too.
Fact.
And I think sometimes you got to be different. You can't just agree or be that yes man just because you're looking to get to a position, or you're looking to. And I think that's why you've gone in further in your career too.
And even in all my meetings with folks, like new organizations we're partnering, I always make it clear, because it's always a question that our mandate at the Toronto Cabinet is not the mayor's mandate, it's not city council's mandate. Like, we were created by the city council, but we're not their mouthpiece, so we're not gonna just spew the rhetoric that they're spewing and whatnot. And so for me, obviously my focus and the people I answer to are young people, not politicians or anything of that sort. So I'm not gonna shy away from speaking up for as long as I know it's gonna be of benefit to young people. And before you ask the next question, I want to speak to go back to the other question. I do believe, though, we all have a role to play. So although systems need to change, us as individuals also need to do better and speak up. It can't be one without the other. So I also want to add that.
Life is complex. It's never either or. It's a mixture of both.
Yeah.
Many dynamics.
Exactly.
And how do you keep yourself motivated?
I like to keep myself motivated. First, I enjoy the work I do. So like, many of my friends like, Steven, like, take a break, with just chill, like, because they see how hard I work. But I think for me, like, I get my motivation from the work I do, and especially the impact. Like, after I get success on an initiative, that feeling is just like no other. And even to this day, like, I look back at some things I was able to do. It's like damn, I'm glad I kept pushing, I put in the work, and so it just motivates me to keep going, to make more change and to impact more individuals. And I always reference the random strangers who hit me up, complimenting me, or even saying, the work you did really impacted me, or really inspired me, or gave me hope. I remember, I'll use one example on my anti-black and anti-indigenous racism in schools initiative that we were tackling. I got an email from a teacher, and I think she was in Barrie, and she was just speaking to how her class has been paying attention and watching, and she said, and I quote, "It's given myself, my class, a new hope that change can come." And so, like, seeing messages like that, it really does motivate me to keep going and keep pushing.
Yeah. And to add to that, I say, you want to live the life, you don't need a vacation away from, love what you do, and you don't need that. So it's like, just one of those things we try to encourage people to do on a daily basis. Like, just make sure you love what you do, and
exactly.
Do what you love, and then from there, you can start diversifying yourself and get into things that you can contribute to society more, and that's what it's always about. I think, like you said earlier, it's not about monetary. I always say this: leave the world a better place than you found it.
Yeah.
For every means you may give back. It doesn't necessarily mean like his role, our role is just having a platform, but you just want to leave the world a better place. Right? So it's on our moral conscience.
And I believe, and I know we talk about it heavily, change starts within. Our platform is solely built on that, you versus you, understanding, like, you have the power to change. And sometimes people, it's so easy to like pinpoint all the problems in communities, in the city, and but what are you doing for yourself to be able to add value to help make the change that you are looking for?
Exactly. And I think when folks look at the Toronto Youth Cabinet, I hope many folks don't, because there's some parties, and we don't pay party politics because the Toronto Youth Cabinet is non-partisan, but I'm using this example because there's some parties in provincial or federal government that people say, all you do is complain, you don't have any solutions and not offer anything. And I know one thing that the 2IC does is like, yeah, we're going to call something out, but also going to put out some tangible solutions with it too. And I think that's why we've gotten the respect of, whether it's the Minister of Education and all these other folks who we work with. It's because, yeah, we're still going to, call, not even call you out, but just call out certain things that you can do better on. but we're also gonna propose some solutions and things that we can do to be better. And I think that's what differentiates certain people, is that some other people just complain, but others, actually have something to offer. And for those who have something to offer are most likely the ones who people are going to want to listen to.
And if you tell our viewers right now, if you have that negative friend that always has something negative to say, they don't have a solution to help you guide through, and that's what we talk about. Often people just want to point out all the negative things and nothing sensible. It's like, maybe this might not work, but help me go to the right direction, and that's exactly what you touch upon then, because then you just become that person who just complain all the time. Everybody's trying to figure it out, and even in the workplace, I know this person is kind of like, your boss have their own problems. He does not care about your problems. If you have something to go say to your boss, make sure you have the solution for it, right? You cannot just say so-and-so is doing this. You can say so-and-so is doing this, but I think this is what we should do following so-and-so. And that's what people want to hear, because, like I said, people have their own problems and things they want to deal with. So whenever you have a tangible solution following that problem, you're much more respected, because people don't see that. People don't see that domain, what it is that you're seeing. So that's why, like, in your personal life or whatever it is, in relationships, in friendship, in the workplace, whatever cause that you're trying to do, before you point out the problem, come up with a tangible solution to help move that problem forward.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that resonates with more people if you can offer something. It's like, because no one wants to hear people complaining.
Yeah, nobody does.
That's not going to resonate with folks. It's like, yeah, sure, call something or point out an issue, but also make sure you have a solution right after it that you can bring to the table. I think that's going to resonate with most folks, and it has.
I see some hearts and love, and a big shout out to DJ Tunes. That's WizKid's official DJ who just tuned in. And it was WizKid's birthday on the weekend, so they had something crazy. But shout out to him too. Like, when I see guys like him doing what they're doing on a crazy platform, traveling the world, our African brothers, our Nigerian neighbors, it gives that hope and inspiration, knowing that, like, we can disguise the limit. You can keep climbing and taking over. So it's like, when I see you, like, I remember I was hosting when I hosted the gala, which we'll get into, kudos to that. When I sent the flyer to my family group chat, my dad was like, I was surprised. He was like, yo, is that Steven, the CP24? Like, oh man, tell him I'm a big fan. And like, in that moment, I was like, damn, like, this is dope to know that, like, the community's watching, they're looking, and sometimes you may not see it. Like, I know now it's normal too. Like, you're on TV all the time, so it's like, you maybe not see it, but to hear from others, it's a reminder how important it is, even culture-based. Why having our people I met the Minister of Education, the head of TDSB, a lot of great vice presidents and vice principals that were there that can help with what we're doing. And that just shows why, like, just getting something started is so important, because you don't know what will come out of it. Exactly. We gave away basketball jerseys, Pascal Siakam, CNE passes. I might have to email that CNE lady today. I don't mind giving some Motivation Mondays. She did tell me to hit her up.
But CNE back next weekend, I believe?
Yeah, July 20th.
No, CNE is in August. Like August 19th.
Oh, that means I think it's the casino that opens July 20th.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but the actual exhibition.
Don't take that for Motivation Monday. No,
I saw that. On TV, they had a commercial, so I saw that. So I believe it was July 20th. But we don't encourage the gambling side. We want people to go and enjoy as kids and youth. And shout out to the youth that won everybody who won an award. Actually, let's talk about the Youth Gala.
Yeah. So, I remember back in November, I hit up my friend Zaina. Like, her and I work on mostly everything together. And so I'm like, yo, let's have a Black Youth Gala. And
was it like the beginning of November or the end?
This was mid to end.
So like Scorpio season time.
Yeah, around there. And I'm like, let's have a Black Youth Gala, because around that time there was so much negativity, on the news, and just silence and things of that sort, which were just just too much. And so I'm like, let's do something positive for young people. Let's do something positive for the community. And so her and I, worked to create Toronto's first Black Youth Gala that we had on June 24th, and thankfully it was a success. So we gave out 10 awards in a different categories. So building community through the arts, building community through athletics, building community through entrepreneurship, got community impact award, youth advocacy, so on and so forth. And I look back and just hearing from some of the award recipients, some of that was their for some of them, it was their first award, first time winning an award, their first time being recognized, and I'm glad about that because that just added more motivation to them to keep going and keep doing the great work that they're doing to better their communities.
And kudos to you, and even to know that was an idea from November, and then you're able to pull it off just a couple weeks ago. And thanks for having me as the master of ceremony. And I know the second one that you're working on making it bigger and better, and you have Motivation Monday support too, so we can we can help the community. And I see Max's speaker being a great keynote speaker for the next one. So it's manifesting and putting things in the universe.
It was an organic affair. I wasn't even intentional because I knew folks were Ghanaian, but I didn't really take it in until the day of that the DJ was Ghanaian, you were Ghanaian, Lewis was Ghanaian, and a couple of award recipients were
Irene. Shout out to a couple of community people that came through.
Yeah,
and that's how it happens sometimes though. When you plan something during Scorpio season, it goes kind of smooth, I love the impact. I got a couple of Scorpios in here too, but shout out K-Pasta, shout out my guy as well too. But yeah, it's good and great to see what has come from people who get into position of power, and that can make change. Not even of power, that can make change. Because those two things, it can get tricky sometimes. People who are in position of power don't really care about making change. But if you care about making change, and you can, we always talk about it's like finances are so important. Like making money, it's not everything, but it's very important, because if you want to make change, like for instance, if you didn't make money, you wouldn't be able to volunteer your time to be able to work with communities and make change. Because bills have to get paid. You got to get to places. But you were able to discover that, and in school. Sometimes I got to look at you and Max, and I'm like, I don't know how you guys do it. Maybe it's a sign for me to maybe start and
it's not even. For me to this day, I'm still. And a lot of people, young people, ask me how are you able to do all this while managing school? And I always say I'm not able to. I'm still trying to this day.
That's the real answer.
That's the real answer. It's not going according to plan, but it's going.
You just keep moving forward and just running with it. But I'll go to God. I've been able to just still balance things to the best of my ability and still focus on the work I'm doing in the community, because for me it's so important for me, and I try to. Obviously, school's a priority, but I know my work I do at the cabinet, just in community at large, is something that's top of mind. And just going back to your piece about the financial piece, I think many people need to realize too is doing volunteer work or doing work for the community doesn't necessarily mean you can't get some type of money from it, or it's you just have to quote unquote, I won't use this word, it's not correct. You don't have to what's the word? I'm trying to be politically correct.
See, when you're in these positions, you got to...
I know the word I was going to try to use.
Yeah, but
trying to stay away from that.
Yeah, but the point is, you can make money from it, because I look at...
You can say compensation.
No, that's not even a word.
He's going to use the S word.
Yeah. That's exactly the word I'm trying to use, but...
You don't have to overwork yourself. You don't have to overwork yourself for free labor. Alright, that's what we're gonna say. That's what we're gonna use. You don't have to work yourself for free labor.
You don't, and I think for me, the opportunities I've been able to have through the cabinet, whether it's public speaking things or events and things of that sort that I do get money from, it's all kind of balances it out. So it's and even the cabinet, I always tell my team not really run with it, do great work, because it's gonna lead you to all these other opportunities that will get you money and that will put you in a good position.
Open doors for opportunities.
Exactly.
Help. Even I think we lose focus sometimes. Just helping somebody can open doors of opportunities for you, and that's what it's about. And you've been talking about this a lot. And I know you're asking for your B words. It's clear what you're passionate about. You talk about being a school, and I myself, that determined factor. It's kind of you have to be determined, because it's not going to be easy. I use the determined fall in line as far as discipline, because if we do things when we just feel good, you wouldn't be in school. I know half of the things that you do, you wouldn't. I know what it is. Today is even today, personally, I had an exam or something I was studying for, and I was it's just one of those things that could make all the excuse, but you got to be disciplined, determined. And then lastly, you talk about empathy, right? Being empathetic, and that's kind of what you're just talking about here, make it meaningful. It's not just about doing it for the monetary advances or anything, but something that is that you actually care about. Like you understand what others are possibly going through, you know?
And I want to touch on the empathy piece because I'll use one initiative I took on as an example. So last year I worked on an initiative pushing for free menstrual products across Ontario school. So obviously I'm not a menstruator, and so I really had to empathize and look beyond myself before taking on that initiative. And I remember I was just scrolling through Instagram and I saw one of my friends post, why do women have to still pay for menstrual products as if menstruation is a choice? And I really resonated with that. And so I remember that night I did a bunch of research on jurisdictions who provided free menstrual products. Just doing like a jurisdictional scan to see if it's even possible to happen here. I saw that it's actually happening in many states in the U.S. and in Canada. 2 provinces had done it at that time, and so I just laid out the steps I was going to take to achieve success in this initiative. I mapped it out. I connected with actual menstruators, and I think going back to connecting with those who not kind of assume that you know what they need, but really connect with folks who are experiencing what you're trying to address. So within 8 months of us taking on that initiative, we were able to get success. So October 8th was when the education minister announced that they're going to provide free menstrual products across Ontario school.
Oh,
we took a W on that.
Oh, that's a huge W.
And it took, and I look at it, 8 months was obviously 8 months of hard work, but 8 months is a short time. It's not actually that long, because I know people have been calling for this like for decades, years, but it took 8 months of hard work and like strategic planning, and we were able to get it done. So all good to God.
Yeah, round of applause to that. That's huge. I didn't think that was the answer was gonna come out from when we were at the end, but
the dramas and the details. And I like that you talk about diligent planning, because nothing happens overnight. You have to be working at things. We talked about bringing up the problem and then coming up with a solution. Having goals for yourself, send the time, be fresh in that. And that's what often happens with people, dreams and goals. It's kind of they leave it in the best, meaning to just leave it in the wind, as far as we're not putting a time frame on it, or maybe it's not coming quick enough. And that's what you just said, 8 months may not seem far enough. And you hear this all the time. Something that you've been seeing going online is I don't want to go back to school because in 5 years I'll be 30. In 5 years you're going to be 30. You're not expecting that. So regardless, so it's kind of putting time frames on these things and realizing that we're all here for a long time, believe it or not. So if you have something that you want to go for it,
Fact. And I think even to the piece of the strategic planning, so if I were to log into my email and go pull up my Google Docs, so you'll see the document I use to plan. I did not edit it. I did it once. I stopped typing on February 16th, and then February 28th was when I officially kicked off the initiative. And looking back, when I do presentations, I show people I did not edit this document, but each of the steps you see it came to fruition. So really
set goals, have a plan.
Exactly.
Those you say how do you know where you're going if you don't have the GPS, if you've never been there before? Those people who fail to plan are planning to fail. So
exactly.
It's one of those to hear people and kudos to you, and I may add, because kudos to you to actually set out the plan that goes according to plan and you don't have to alter it. In some cases when we're working on a dream, we might have to divert, we might have to make slight adjustments, which is okay, which is all part of it. That's what strategic is. That's what we talk about, being strategic towards something that you care most about.
And I can speak on that heavily because it's not easy. This stuff is not for the weak either, but we always talk about it. No matter where you are in life, whether in a dark place, if you gotta walk through that tunnel of darkness, at the end there's light.
Facts.
We always talking about you can have a puddle, life could be a mess of that water, but don't dwell in it, don't sit in it. You gotta do something about it. And if you're down, the only way to go is up, literally. So it's we understand that people are dealing with life. Mental health is a major thing. I want to ask you this because it's I don't know why it's hitting. I guess I know why. Because even Brandon Gomez, the news have been talking about it, how people now, the suicide rates in terms of people wanting to actually go get medical help to make them kill themselves is at an all-time high because of the pandemic.
Yeah. So like looking at one of the initiatives, we're addressing or we're hoping to address the rise in youth mental health crisis. Because even before the pandemic there was a crisis, but during the pandemic that crisis exacerbated, and then now we're kind of feeling it. And in the next 2-3 years, we're gonna, if we don't take action to really address some of the real issues right now, I'm worried about where the next 2-3 years are going to be, especially for our young people, because it's not really we're not really paying much attention to it. And so in this initiative that we're taking on, I'm really emphasizing the need for early intervention and early prevention, because so oftentimes we want to be reactive to the issue, and I think, rightfully so, because we've now taken action decades ago, and so now we're kind of chasing the issue, playing catch up. But it's like, while we're playing catch up, we also need to make sure we stop that cycle, because there's a cycle of young people funneling into our system and funneling into our society who are not mentally well, and so it's like we got to do both. Catch up, but at the same time make sure that no one has to go to experience what current people experience. So like, I know a couple of recommendations we're pushing are calling for mandatory mental health literacy in the curriculum, because that's another way to promote early intervention, early prevention. We're also calling for mental health days for students. This is something that many states in America have done, but no one in Canada has done. So basically, a mental health day is a day just to allow students to rest, relax, recover from the stresses. And so we're calling for a set number of mental health days per semester that students can tap into. And I will have 5 recommendations, but I'll say the top 3. And so the third one is calling for additional mental health clinicians, because right now you go to a school, literally there's one social worker for 15 schools in Toronto. One mental health worker. And you go to other places, like let's say one mental health worker for like a school population of like 900 students. So we're calling for the government to meet the recommended averages, and obviously that's gonna cost a lot of money, but rightfully so. We need to make sure every school has a mental health worker, a social worker, a CYW, a school psychologist, so we can really get a grip of this issue.
Making a change. And I think
that's my domain. That's one of my reasons why you do what you do, when you see some of the things that's happening. But
when he said that first person, I thought about, I'm like, yo, this is good, because after this we're gonna have a real talk, because we both can help each other out, and I think we all have the right resources. And I could use your skills and expertise in planning and sticking to a plan and getting things done, to use it to our advantage, to help the community and keep it going. Because time is only going. Like, now we're seeing that. I'm seeing that in the news being talked about. I'm just like, how can we talk about this? And like, how are we helping these people? Like, why are we saying okay to them? Like, how are we saying okay? How can we help and make this not a thing? Yeah. Because it starts with one person, then it just goes that domino effect.
Emphasis on that urgency piece. I think like, if you read all the statements, even in like our initiatives, the word urgency is always there. Like, we need urgent action to address anti-black racism in schools. We need urgent action to address the mental health crisis, because it's like, it's one thing to say, oh yeah, I agree, this is a problem and we're gonna work towards it. But it's one thing to say, yeah, I agree that this is a problem, and we're gonna do the work today. We're gonna put in the steps and measures today to properly address that problem. I think most times people are loafed in. Oftentimes, unfortunately, politicians are loafed in and not really taking some of these issues with the urgency that it deserves and it's required of it. And so, like, for me, if I can come in and amplify that urgency on a specific topic, so that more folks are talking about it, which pushes our politicians to really act on it, I think they did a good job on that.
As you say that, sometimes I don't even blame these politicians. The only reason why I say this is that we don't really get into politics like that, but as we're talking about it, some of these guys have not been in our situations or in our communities or are brought up see, or how we grew up or faced the same challenges and barriers that we face. So how can we expect them to understand or do the things or make urgency for things that they've never felt or been through themselves? Yeah. And that's why it's important for us to create new leaders and, another Max a speaker or another Steve, like somebody who can see like, oh, you know what, because of Steven, I see him there, I want to be able to be part of a student body or of a council. Or because I see Max, I want to be a speaker. I want to be a keynote speaker. I want to be able to speak to you. Because I see Ebone, I want to be able, whether it's weddings or events, like, showing the community who we are and not just making them watch us on Instagram, giving them access to us to have conversations, to meet us live, meet and greets, different things to make them know that we're human just like you guys.
And I think even with that original point about although they don't or haven't lived our experience, they probably won't be able to address it. But it goes back to that empathy piece, because I think that's one character trait that all politicians and all leaders in general need to have, is that empathy, because you're not gonna face all the issues in life, but you shouldn't have to be before willing to address it. And so, I decided that empathy piece is key. That's oftentimes people lack. And it requires doing the work. And many people don't want to do the work to really better understand specific problems. People rather just pretend it doesn't exist and then move on without actually doing the work to properly, say, hey, this is the issue. Let me learn more about this issue. Let me learn more about your experiences, and let me, help be an advocate to, supporting you.
And that's well said, because that's not a great way to look at things, because it brings more harm to the community
100%.
and to our youth. I want to ask you a question. T, I'm gonna have to, if you can get into our group chat, the last, there's 3 pointers I asked you about what these things mean to you. So I want to get it, because we're using all the phones, and then Max can break it down. Then we got to get into our affirmation. But I want to ask you, if there was any advice you could give to your younger self, what would it be? And I'm taking you, and it's a deep that question, but
I'd say keep saying yes. Yeah, keep saying yes. Keep saying yes. I'll use one example of my public speaking, because I'm nervous. So when I first started, I was nervous. What's this name of this? It's a complex. Basically, you fear doing something.
Imposter syndrome?
Yeah, imposter syndrome.
yo, this is good. These guys are good.
And I'm gonna address that because that is very common for anybody. Because if it's you're basically an imposter each time you try to do something new, it's not you. You feel like this is not me. You're doubting yourself, and that's for any domain. Like whatever it is that you try to do, you're gonna have that. So it's quite a normal thing to have. But people often feel like it's not one with self. But go ahead, finish what you're saying.
So I know when I first started, I would say no to specific things, but I think once I joined the Toronto Youth Cabinet, that's when I kept saying yes. So every public speaking engagement, you would hit me up, I always say yes. So my mindset is okay, Steven, say yes and then stress about it afterwards. And then after you'll stop stressing, and then you'll be like, okay, I've always said yes. Now let me practice and do the work to do good, so that I don't embarrass myself. So for me, any opportunity someone hits me up, if I want to do it, of course, I'll always say yes. And then I'll probably stress about it for a couple days. I don't know what I'm gonna say. Then I'll just do the work, and then I end up excelling at it. So
Repetition.
I think keep saying yes.
That's what it is. Say yes to yourself. Repetition each time. That's how you overcome some of these things.
And I see people love that, because the girls, the females she's like, yep, say yes in capital letters. Yes. Good afternoon to everybody as well too joining us. Now, I asked you for your 3 words that mean the most to you and who you are as a person. Max, he said his words were passionate. So passion, very determined, and empathetic. So those are the 3 things when it comes to the work and what you do that you feel describe you best.
What are you passionate about? What's so meaningful to you? And is it a systematic change with the youth, or?
I'd say my ultimate passion lie within education. And it goes back to the piece about wanting to make sure our young people are able to achieve and succeed and reach their full potential, especially our Black and Indigenous young people. Because the first initiative I took on was tackling anti-Black and anti-Indigenous racism in our education system. And I think in all the work I do, I always think equity, and I just always think about the specific groups that have been neglected and have been unable to reach their full potential. Because truly, it's just crazy. Because when I first started the initiative, you speak to current young people in high school and elementary school, you speak to young people in university about their elementary school experience, you speak to people in their 30s, 40s, 50s about their high school, elementary. It's all the same. And so for me, I'm and I know when I was speaking to some older adults, and when they talk to me about some of their own goals and aspirations that they had, that they've been unable to really tap into due to being really plateaued by the education system, that just this got me angry, and it just gets me just so flustered. And so for me, I think my passion just really lies in education, because education is like essential to our success in life. And I think having an education system that's free of inequities that allows all of our students and young people to reach their full potential, like that's what it's all about. Like when you're a young person and I talk to young people like grade 1 or whatever, like you have all these like you're excited at school, first day, especially that first day of school, I want to be this, want to be that, but then by the time they get to grade 8, they're done with school. They're done with their aspirations. That this school system has just like plateaued them completely. And so for me, that's a problem, especially considering they were doing it a lot to our Black and Indigenous youth.
And some of these things, like I personally read some of these things have been proven scientifically. Like some of the stereotypes and the biases by teachers, even just by your name, doing the EQAO tests and things like that. So
I remember EQAO tests. So we're bringing ourselves back to some of these days.
It starts as early as there, but yes. So that's what you're passionate about. It's a great cause. Something has to be bigger than you. Because if it's just about you, like I say all the time, eventually something along the way will come that's big that'll stop you from doing what it is that you want to do. But when you have a bigger pull, when something is beyond you, because our selfish needs, we say no to ourselves all the time. Things that we want to do for ourselves, we make all kinds of excuses why we shouldn't do it. If it's get up today and start on that book you've been contemplating for 5 years, tomorrow, it's a month, it's raining. Like you make all the excuses. But when somebody else is counting on you, when the thing is bigger than you, it's a bigger pull. Like maybe the pull is not enough, but the push, you gotta have something that's bigger than you to keep you going.
Exactly.
And it's funny, like over the weekend, so that blazer that I had on, right?
Yeah.
A couple months ago I couldn't fit into it.
Really?
And like I remember like when I started getting to the gym, obviously kudos to Max who's always in the gym, like it was like I just felt like I couldn't even do Motivation Mondays without being in the gym. Like it just wastes. Like how is my brother always constantly in the gym and I'm not? And then when I was trying to put on clothes and it couldn't fit, I'm like, yo, all right, forget it. So like everyone kept asking me about the blazer, and in my head I'm like, yo, this blazer's so old, but I just couldn't wear it when I got it. So it was kind of tucked away. But like that was my reason to be like, all right, I need to get back. So now that I'm fitting into it smooth and the way I want to, I'm like, all right, cool, keep it up. Like currently I'm down like 15 pounds. I've been in the gym since April, May, June, July. So like 3 months consistently getting in. And I'm seeing the results. Yeah. So I just got to keep going.
Snowball effect. When things starts to go well, just keep rumbling. You feel good about yourself, And I encourage people to find out what's hard, carry that burden. And then once things start going right for you, keep it going. Stay on track.
I've been trying to tap into that gym lifestyle. Like my brother has tapped into it recently, but for me it's like, I don't know. I like to work on my mind, my mental, so I like to read a lot, but it's like you can't do one and not do the other. I mean,
we're working out what's on the mind. Like we all know, one thing that we do know also is that, one of the things about growing up, how our cognitive decline, the best thing that you actually do is actually read if it helps you. It's better than any of those Sudoku or like anything to refresh your brain, but like actually working on is the thing to keep your cognitive fluid without declining so fast. As you get older, it is going to decline, but so the gym has many benefits, not just about looking good, it's about actually feeling good. So should get into it.
I keep making excuses. I'm like, I'm too busy, but we're all too busy.
We're always too busy.
Like if I made it a priority, I know I could do it, but before the year ends, I'll hopefully get into it.
We'll get it. You got like 5 more months left, so we'll tap in. We'll make sure. Now I want to get. Usually we start affirmation in the beginning, but I'll say it now, and when I read it out, then we'll ask you to break down what we're saying, and then also get Max's insight. So our affirmation of today is: I am destined to succeed in my venture or whatever I put my mind to. I visualize my success in achieving my goals. I let go of the negative thoughts and doubts about realizing my business and personal goals. I am well on my way to realize my goal and succeed in business and in life. So I'll repeat that again. I am destined to succeed in my venture and anything I put my mind to. I visualize my success in achieving my goals. I let go of the negative thoughts and doubts about realizing my business and personal goals. I am well on my way to realize my goal and succeed in business and in life.
I'd say like I'll pick the second and third paragraph, but just that whole negativity piece, it starts from that imposter syndrome, which thankfully over the last couple of years, or like last 2 years, I've it's hardly anything I've experienced lately. But just that negative thoughts, I have this rule, like I never let any negativity enter my mind. Like, especially when I'm taking on initiatives, I'm like, I remember when I first started with my anti-black racism initiative and menstrual equity initiative, people like, oh, Stephen, go do something small, or people counted me out. I'm like, bet. And then, we did it. So it's like, I feel like I never let any negativity enter my mind, and just like dwell, as soon as it comes in, like I just cancel it right away. And I think that whole visualizing piece, like even my own political aspirations, where people ask, like, will be Minister of Education, then I'm going to be Mayor of Toronto, or then Prime Minister candidate. I don't really like the word manifesting, but I usually use the word speaking into existence, and just that, obviously that visualizing piece, and obviously like I make sure I do the work beforehand, to get to where I want to go in the long term. So I think there's that hard work, that speaking into existence, and just not letting any negativity enter your mind. Like, that I know that has served me well. Because the second you play into those negative thoughts and just let other negative people and just because you can't do it doesn't mean I can't do it. I think that's when
people say no to their dreams, so they try to convince you to say no to yours. And the visualize part is so key. You got to see before anybody else sees it. And,
exactly.
And that's major. Like it's not so much as manifesting thing, but you can't just say all these things to yourself, because that's the delusion. You actually got to put in that work. Because I like how you say you don't like using the word manifestation, because it has become the new fab, I should say, where everybody kind of like just says it, but they don't put the work behind it. So it's kind of like you have to see and you have to put in that work. The things that you want, or you say you want this, you want that, those are just wishes. Until you actually put in deliberate plan and say, this is what I have to do, this is what I need to do, then we have a plan to action.
Exactly.
And I know I'm just gonna let everyone know what kind of happened on the aspect of the people who joined, because we just had touched the hour. But the crazy is Instagram stopped doing that, but I guess it's back.
Yeah, I thought they started doing the hour.
I don't know if it's because we're on 3 phones. And we're on this one, but I mean, it's good because we're still recording for the YouTube, so to our people who are going to watch this after. But before we get out of here, please let them know where they can find you on social media, all your personal pages, TO Youth Cabinet, and if anyone's looking to get you to speak or anything like that, how they can get a hold of you.
So you can tap into the Toronto Youth Cabinet at TO Youth Cabinet. That's our ad for Instagram and Twitter, and just my own at Stephen Mensah _ That's my ad for Instagram and Twitter as well. And check out the Toronto Youth Cabinet's website, thetyc.ca, thetyc.ca. And thanks for this, gal.
That's it, my brother. Max, any last words before we get out of here?
Stay motivated. We hope the story was inspiring. Thank you for coming in, sharing your thoughts and views on what it is that's going on in your life. We really appreciate you coming in today.
And let's not make this the last link up. For sure. Even if you have time after this, I want to get right to work. I got a lot of things, and I think we can make change. And one thing I took about today that I love is like basically changing the education aspect of how people are getting the education from school, and that comes because I look at this platform as a class or a period that somebody has to go to.
Yeah.
So I'm now looking, okay, now that I met the head of TDSB and she likes what we talk about, and there's you as well. That's how I met her. How can we come together as 3 great entities and make this happen in different spaces, just like how you're able to change the menstrual products for the ladies and the mental health day that you're looking to implement. So thank you again, my brother, and appreciate you for making the time. I know you're a busy schedule, and you give back to the community, so we appreciate you for coming. That's it for Motivation Mondays.